Yo, what is up, everybody? It is Flyers Talk A to D. Got interesting conversation tonight. We're gonna discuss a lot of the Metro Division matchups that have been happening and are yet to happen. So we're gonna discuss the weekend that was against the Rangers, Islanders, and Devils, and we're gonna discuss what's ahead with the Devils once again on Wednesday. We're also gonna discuss what's coming with the Islanders as well as the Flyers look to rebound in Game 2 against the Isles after losing 3-1 to that team at that point. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Definitely hit that share button. Let's go. It's time to talk some puck.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D right here on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Sudi along with the Darkwing Brian Daly.
My head is so cloudy, bro. Oh, man.
And the broken one, Rob Povia.
Much like the Flyers locker room, I'm ducking and dodging the germs here in South Jersey right now.
Dude, I thought I was. And then the other day I wake up, boom. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, well. What are you going to do, man? It's the winter time. And we are brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy, the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal. Hit him up if you got any aches and pains. Head either to Cherry Hill or Burlington, New Jersey. He's got great staff in both locations. After a few sessions with them, you won't be feeling those pains all that much anymore. So the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal, SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. The poll question for today is the Flyers will earn 4 points in the next two Metro Division matchups. Agree or disagree? As not to bury the lead, but the Flyers, unfortunately, as the title suggests, hasn't exactly lived up to expectations against the Islanders and Rangers. However, though, they did manage to get back on the track, hopefully, by winning the first of a home-and-home that they have against the Devils. So, hopefully, a step in the right direction for them. It'll be tough to sweep it, but if they could do that, that might just be a huge boost to them as they get ready to count down towards the end of the first half of the regular season, which is getting oh so very close, gentlemen. So, with that knowledge in hand, do we agree or do we disagree that the Flyers will earn 4 points in the Metro, at least in their two divisional matchups here, before it's all said and done?
I'm going to agree to the poll. I feel like I've been agreeing to a lot lately, but what are you going to do? Got to get 4 points here. You know, I know we talked about it a little bit last week. You know, is there a legit chance for this team to find a way to claw into a playoff spot? And in order to do that right now for the Flyers, these are the most important games that you have to win, are these games in the Metro Division. You know, you drop two big ones to the Rangers and the Islanders, where the Rangers just absolutely spanked them. And then the Islanders, you go out and you get an early lead. You can't hold it, and it just gets worse from there. So, I said this a few weeks ago. You know, some of these games, the Flyers can get a lead, but they can't seem to figure out ways to hold it and close these games out. You know, and then you have games like they had against the Devils last night, where they played well pretty much from start to finish. A couple, you know, that last 4 minutes was kind of rough, but you know, they found a way to hold the lead, close it out, and get the dub. You know, that's the important thing right now, is racking up dubs. And who would have thought they played the Devils so well? So I guess that definitely works in their favor, having to face them again on Wednesday. But you know, gotta figure out a way. Gotta figure out a way to beat these teams in New York. Like I said, if they want a shot at getting back into the playoffs this year, these are the games they have to win. They have to get 4 points in this one.
So, John, what's up, brother? He's saying disagree. Let's see here. Looking to see who else was agreeing or disagreeing. But in the meantime, though, The situation right now with the Flyers is that, they got 2 games coming up here. They've got the Islanders again, and they got the Devils to finish off that home and home. Hard to sweep home and homes, so it's going to be a real challenge for them. They're going to be in the Prudential Center instead of being in the Well, which they were able to defend home turf. Against the Islanders, that's going to hopefully be a redemption opportunity for them. Obviously, they have also been suffering from some type of ailment, which has put them a little bit behind the 8 ball, getting sick at a bad time. So that, unfortunately, are you blaming yourself, Bri? Is it your
No, I'm with these guys. I'm just as sick as they are.
Okay, I was just wondering because the way you were waving and pointing is like, blame me. It's my fault.
No, it's not.
I
No.
I
No.
went and spat on the hockey sticks before they went out and practiced. So now they're all sick now because of me.
No.
Okay.
I'm with Tommy. Like I can't breathe. It's the worst thing in the world. Just feeling like you can't breathe.
Oof, that's tough.
So congested.
Well, it sounds like Heather's got it too. So hopefully everybody feels better out there. Yeah. The weather did change too, so that didn't help anything. It was freezing, and now we're back to not like warm, but cold, but not freezing cold. You know what I mean? So
Cool.
It's cool. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for there. So with the aid of Dictionary Brian here, we're able to get that one narrowed down there. What?
Thesaurus.
Thesaurus?
I didn't give you any dictionaries. I gave you a word from like a thesaurus or something like that.
Oh, okay, fine. You're Thesaurus Daily. There we go.
Little J, happy birthday to your little brother.
Ah,
you didn't specify brother, but
still,
yeah.
Congratulations. So happy birthday. And let's see, Priz asking what the poll is and how do we keep Briz pants on and off of it, or Bry's pants off and on it.
It's an interesting question.
That is. I didn't even realize that this was something he was interested in. But,
personal.
So, I'm going to say agree. I think the Flyers are a resilient team. I think that they're a hardworking team. This is a team that fights back from everything, including sickness. Maybe I'm just trying to will it into existence, possibly. But you know what? I'll will it into existence if I have to. I want to see 4 points on the board. I want to see them beat the Devils and then beat the Islanders, walk away with 4 points, and get ready to face off with the Colorado Avalanche afterwards, which is also not going to be a fun game. So I'm going to say agree. Robbie, go ahead.
While I'll admit it's within the realm of possibility based on the way we've seen this team play up and down this whole season, I think you both are smoking crack. I adamantly disagree. I do not think they're going to earn 4 points in these next 2 games. I mean, hey, the Flyers have had New Jersey's number this year and have controlled the pace of play in both games. Devils, are going to be out for blood on home ice, looking to settle that score. It'll be a tough 2 points to squeeze out of the Rock. And although feasible, like I said, I think I'd be cool with a point from that game, maybe in an overtime loss. But moving on, I could see Philly exacting some revenge, to Maddie's point, against the Islanders back home at the Wells Fargo Center where they played much better. Especially the Isles are also down. Both Noah Dobson, like we saw last time, with the lower body injury, and now Ryan Pulock with an upper body injury. He even got sent to IR. Ooh. But New York, they brought old friend Tony D in from Russia, playing over in the KHL, and so far he's fit in like peas and carrots. They've won 4 straight. They're 7-3 over their last 10 games. That's not going to be an easy task. That Anders Lee, Bo Horvat, Matthew Barzal line has been white hot. There's a lot of reasons to like the Islanders, despite, last game they looked pretty dominant in a 3-1 decisive victory, but they also lost 5-3 earlier in the season too. So those 2 points, they're disputable. But unless the Flyers can improve on their poor puck possession, 4 points is a lot to ask against these teams in this scenario. On the season, Philly has a 48.28% Corsi rating, which is 10th worst. And that really illustrates, in case you're not familiar with that analytic, it illustrates how their opponents have possessed the puck more often, 52% to their 48, and it causing the Flyers to chase the game. Maybe they continue to buck that trend against New Jersey like we just saw, but the Devils will have their due. As much as I hate the MFers, they will have their due. The best way for the Flyers to build off their last win and gain these highly contested points in the Metro Division is to show better puck possession and limit those high danger chances like I talked about last week. That is where this team has excelled. They have a 9.32 high danger chances per 60, which is 4th best in the league behind number 1 LA Kings. And a lot of other teams, either defensive powerhouses or showing defensive prowess like the Edmonton Oilers. Ultimately, boys, to sum up, I say the Flyers, they take 3 points in 2 overtime games. They'll be in it to win it, but 4 points, I can't say it. 2 points is a lock. Give me 2 overtime losses, I'm okay. But maybe they pull out a win against the Islanders at home.
I'm going to say
Mitchkov magic.
I don't know what's more offensive, the fact that you said the Devils are going to win or that you used a pun while describing it.
Maddie, do me a favor real quick.
And Rob,
2 puns.
What were you going to say, Brian?
Do me a favor. Just flash the poll question on and off the screen real quick.
Yeah, sure. Oh, okay, hold on. There's a different poll question back here.
Yeah, I want to see if it pops up or not. There's a purpose. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have Chuck change it back. He's trying to get set up for his. I think they're recording tonight after we're done. Or
okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, going to be a busy couple of weeks for here at A2D, because obviously, as was said by little G Griffith over here, the Eagles are, in fact, in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So,
let's go.
For the second year in a row, it will be the Chiefs and the Eagles. It seems like the only 2 parts of the country that wanted this was Kansas City and Philadelphia. But it is what has happened.
Second time in 3 years.
Oh, second time in 3 years.
Yeah,
Whatever.
second time in 3 years. Third in a row for Kansas City. They played San Fran last year.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. The Eagles got beat, in the first round or something?
Yeah, to the Bucks. They got smoked. But I mean, like, I get where Rob's head's at, and it definitely makes sense. I'm definitely delirious, so there could be a little bit of reasoning why I agree with the poll. If you can't hear it, I'm definitely not feeling good. So, trying to make the best of this hour here before I go crash. I mean, like, I get it, and the one thing that the Islanders did really well in that game on, was it Friday that they played the Islanders? The Islanders, pretty much after that first goal, I felt like they maintained that puck possession and essentially played keep away for the majority of the rest of the game. There were a few good scoring chances for the Flyers there, but I mean, let's be real. Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov is a very, very dangerous duo in net. And it definitely makes it harder when you have 2 guys who can be the legit number 1s in the same tandem. So, and they have that strong defense. Thing with the Flyers is, though, you have to figure out ways to do what they did against the Devils last night. And again, just maintain puck control, maintain possession. One thing TK did really well, especially in that last few minutes, was putting himself in the passing lane. I mean, how many passes he tipped before ultimately getting the puck to Scott Lawton to score that empty netter? So if they can get back to playing the way that they played last night, and they can maintain that and move that into tomorrow night, build off of that, and head that into the game against the Islanders, I think we could definitely see 4 points here. They just have to figure out ways to put the puck in the net and just beat whoever's in net for the Islanders, because whoever it is, the Flyers usually have a hard time with finding the ways to beat their goalie.
Right. Well, this team, boys, has been Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when it's come to puck possession. And to Risto's point, what they really did well against the Devils was attacking at each blue line, right? Even before hitting the defensive zone and developing a strong transition game and forecheck because of it. When they got that going on, it's really easy to win hockey games. A lot of times we see this team, and we saw it, as to your point, Brian, late in the third period there, where there's a lot of giveaways at the blue line in both the offensive and defensive zones. And that's when you see these teams coming back and even stacking on, like we saw against the New York Rangers last Thursday evening. So it's really like you hit the nail right on the head. It comes down to puck possession and whether you're chasing the game or you're dictating the pace, Matty.
No, that's true. You don't want to chase the game. You want to set the tone. You want to be in control. In a game like hockey where momentum swings on a dime, you really do want to be large and in charge out there on both the defensive and offensive zones. And the big problem that the Flyers have had has been the inconsistency when it comes to that type of play. But then again, at the same token, we kind of suspected that anyway, considering that this was a team that was going to be relatively young and learning, with veteran presence being at a minimum. So it's not a shocker that that's what we've seen this year. So it's nothing that I would say would be alarming. It'd be more alarming if this team was a team that many people considered playoff bound and they were having these kind of issues. I would be worried then. But this is a young team learning and growing and just needing to learn these kind of things and get that consistent play out of them. So for now, as it is, this is just kind of what we're going to have to deal with for the time being until it's a little bit more nailed down with the foundations and everything.
Well, I like him. I like seeing him playing confident hockey, physically aggressive hockey, right? Well, like we saw with that Nick Seeler hit on Bastion. And to your point, Brett, Benny, I think that was a legal hit. I absolutely, I mean, the head did collide into the shoulder, but I think that was a legal hit. I think John Tortorella hit the nail right on the head. This is a league that's become very popular with players not expecting to be hit and then getting caught off guard, and it looks 10 times worse than it is. Now you hope the guy's okay and didn't suffer concussion or any head trauma, but I mean, outside of that, take off your skirts. I mean, I'm sorry, Devil fans. If you don't like it, at me.
I mean,
no, it's you're pretty much hit the nail on the head too there, Robbie. That hit on Bastion, no issue with that. And I'm one to call somebody out immediately if it hits questionable or not. It's tough because he was watching his pass, and it looked like that he was starting to kind of lower himself a little bit to kind of brace for last second impact. It's a tough hit. It's a hard hit. It's a hockey hit. It just so happens that, he put himself in a little bit more of a vulnerable position than he probably should have. At that point, Bastion's got to prepare for a hit. You're on the inboard. You just dumped the puck in. Absolutely gotta prepare for a hit there every single time.
Right. So let's see here. John saying, so the Birds, second time in 3 years, Super Bowl. Does that put a little pressure on the Flyers to make the playoffs by next year, especially since they have only made the playoffs 3 times out of 10 years? No, I don't think that puts pressure on them at all. If they were owned by, like, say, the same company or by a similar owner, I could see then the possibility of that being an issue, because sometimes owners tend to get a little impatient if one side is not holding up their end of the deal while the other is. That can happen sometimes, but since all the teams in Philly are owned by separate owners, I don't really think that it's I think it's more of the fans want to see it more so than necessarily the ownership or the front office really being pressured to making it happen. Don't get me wrong, we'd all love to see, well, maybe Rob wouldn't like to see all 4 teams, but I mean, I think most here would prefer to see all
Hey,
4 teams.
if it took the other 3 to win a championship to bring the cup for the Flyers, so be it.
Okay.
I'll
All
live with
right.
it. I'll live with it. It's been too long. 3 times out of the last 10 years, yeah, it does create a little bit of pressure, especially since this was a team that predominantly made the playoffs over the course of the 90s and early 2000s. Then it became an every other year thing. Remember that for a little while, and that still keeps you
Yeah.
relevant,
Right.
and then all of a sudden now you're on the outside looking in. But you gotta, you hate to compare your progress against what the other teams in the league are doing, but let's look at some of the other rebuilding teams in the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks. And I believe the Flyers rebuild is ahead of their timeline based on what we're doing here in Philadelphia. So it's hard to squabble about that. And
Yeah.
it's hard to or it's real easy to not feel the pressure and allow this team to take the next step.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, we're still talking. What were you gonna say, Brian?
I was just gonna say real quick, I'm with Benny 100%. I think the pressure is more so on the Phillies than any other team because they're the only other team that's fairly relevant and could be considered a championship contender than the Sixers would be, and obviously the Flyers. So I think I agree with Benny. There's more pressure on the Phillies than any other team in the city.
Right. But I would say though that as well, looking at the rest of the league, I mean, look at the Red Wings. Talk about a team that has a ton of pressure on them. Talk about a team that's been in a rebuild for a very long time, and they haven't seen eye nor tail of the playoffs. I mean, think of it this way. I think the Devils went into a rebuild only shortly before them, and the Devils have already had the playoffs a few
Yeah.
times. And so, and the Rangers went through a retool within that period of time too. So it's like you're talking about just 2 teams right off the top of my head. Carolina went through a rebrand and has been consistently in the playoffs since then. So it's like for a team for it could easily be the same thing with the Flyers, where other teams are really struggling to get their rebuild to keep going in the right direction. The Flyers could be one of those teams that manages to get back into the playoffs a little bit more consistently before they do, simply because of the fact that, for one, Flyers did stock up on some young talent before the complete strip down happened. So it wasn't like the Flyers were starting from complete scratch. I mean, if you want to talk about San Jose, that is starting from complete scratch right there. You literally traded away almost everything that wasn't bolted down, and you're starting back up.
Yeah.
So I would say right now, I wouldn't say there's pressure on the Flyers. I mean, I think it's more of the fans want to see the Flyers get in because they want to see the young players get in and get the experience. That is going to be very important for them. But again, with Danny, Jonesy, and the rest, they're all looking at it as, listen, big picture. We're not looking at this for let's get in this year. We're looking at it for let's just get this rebuild staying in the right direction here, and let's get a goalie nailed down, and let's get all this taken care of, basically. So let's see here. What else we got? And then he also follows up with that. I was thinking, I didn't think the Flyers being a playoff contender this season, but only 3 times in 10 years puts a lot of pressure on them for next season. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say this right now. I understand where the mentality comes from because, again, like you were talking about, Rob, a consistent playoff berth, you get so used to it, you expect it. But I think the problem is league changed. So, things changed. And also the league expanded on top of that. So the talent pool is getting thinner. So, you have a lot of things that you got to contend with now compared to what you had to, say 20 years ago. 20 years
Sure.
ago, we're talking about like what? 7 or 8 teams aren't even in the league.
Right.
So there's a lot that's missing here.
Right, and you had Mr. Snyder behind the helm, who, he was a little bit more proactive, when it came
Right.
to keeping the team relevant, and how it had a lot of stake in things, and to his credit, established what the orange and black mean to this day. God rest his soul. But you look at Dan Hilferty, and an equally good owner, but more in terms of a passive and patient type owner, not putting a lot of pressure, putting trust in the guys that know the game, and Danny B, Keith Jones, John Tortorella, and company. So I think once you get that big name free agent in here, that's when the clock ticks on the pressure.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. The one thing I will say though, like what's nice about, and I don't know if I said it last week or the week before. Like I said, my head's all whatever. Having an owner with an identity again, I feel like takes the pressure off, because now you're not performing for some robot. You actually have a guy. You know what he looks like. And honestly, like, I think there's more pressure on Danny than anybody else right now, but I don't think it's yet. And I was listening to this Sonoda goalie. I surprisingly completely agreed with Anthony Sanfilippo, which I don't know. I must have been drunk or something. I'm not sure, but he brought up an absolute massive point. I don't think there's any pressure on Danny this year. I don't think there's even going to be that much pressure on Danny into next season. I think all the pressure is going to be on Danny come free agency, because you're going to have a bunch of money freed up. You're going to have guys gone. You're going to have some open spots to bring some guys to challenge for roster spots. The big thing for me here is just realizing that the offseason, I think there's more pressure on this offseason than any point in Danny's tenure so far.
Well, because it's going to be a year where he's going to have a little bit more wiggle room than he did last year. And then on top of it, there's going to be questions on contracts, because I do believe there's a couple that are coming up. And yep. So there's a number of sticking points that he's going to be immediately, that we're going to have some discussions on. So we're going to have a busy off season, in Philly. This one last year was more of we don't really have much room to work with. This year, total opposite of that. We got some room, and we have some contracts, and we got some work to do this coming off season.
Yeah.
But let's see here. A couple of the comments to start off here to the side. Prism saying, fuck it, I'm agreeing. 4 points. The goalies nut up and get one shutout and a finish with goals against average of 1.0 thousand. All right. Well, you know what, Priz?
It's not far off from the numbers that Harrison has posted since the Christmas break. Have you checked those? I think, what was it, like a 187 and a 923?
It's something along those lines. He's been outstanding.
He has been. And you know what, Priz? This is why we love you. So let's see here. Next up, we got another one from Priz. He says also, pressure would be by year 5 of Briere as the GM, still saying they're still rebuilding. I don't see any playoff pressure this year. It's just an added bonus that they're in the race. Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, I think if we go 5 years and Danny's still talking about a rebuild, and we're still not getting any chemistry or gelling or anything like that, and we're still having these, these schizophrenic kind of like issues on the ice, then yeah, I could see the pressure very much being on Danny then. But, for now, I think it's only his second year behind the helm? Second or third year behind the helm?
Second, I believe.
Yeah, it's only his second year. So it would just, I wouldn't say the pressure's on him right now.
No, I mean, if anything,
was it third with the interim, or was it the interim at one of those 2 years?
Ooh, you know what, Rob? You might be right. I think there was an interim year.
Yes.
Or second half of the year.
Yeah. But I don't think that's not really. I don't know. I wouldn't count that against Danny because that's coming into the job. So I would say more like these last 2 seasons are at the start of that official. He is now the uncontested GM right now.
Yes. So like, if anything, right now, I don't think there's the only pressure is getting these guys to develop and take the next step. Getting guys to find the consistency like Owen Tippett, TK, who's been consistent over the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah, getting guys like Tyson Forrester to take the next step. Living Lightning, what's going on? Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Come talk Flyers with us every Tuesday night. Tyson Forrester taking the next step. Bobby Brink taking the next step. Noah Cates showing some consistency as a really solid 200-foot player. These guys need to figure out ways to just generate consistent offense. I think there's more pressure there than for this team to make the playoffs.
Right. And Living Lightning saying that they are a team that can beat anybody but can't make the playoffs. Been a fan since '74 and will always bleed orange and black. Let's go Flyers. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's nice to see you. He also says every team is always looking. Stop calling it a rebuild. And teams are always in a mode to grow. And yeah, he's not wrong in that. I mean, even teams that are competitive, if they're not. How many times have we seen Carolina make a move? How many times have we seen Vegas make a move? I mean, they were still making moves even after they won the cup.
Mm-hmm.
The point being is that even when you're consistently in the playoffs, you're always still looking to try and get over the hump if you don't get your name on the cup at the end of the day. Some teams can't because they hurt themselves cap-wise. I think Edmonton is a perfect example of that. But the point being is you see how teams work. They sometimes they panic, though. That's one thing about those teams. Like, I think sometimes you see them overthink it. And then this will be perfect for us to get over the hump and get in there. And then they realize, we backed the wrong thing. Yeah, you did. You should have just stuck to it.
True story.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see here. One other comment to jump into, I believe. And that was John's response to me saying, but those teams you mentioned have won cups in the last 50 years. We haven't won a cup in 50 years. I was at the first parade and I'm getting old and I want a Stanley Cup. Listen, I understand, man. Listen, I wasn't at it. I would love to see a Stanley Cup parade. It'd be really awesome. So I get that completely. But the problem is it's like, unfortunately, the Flyers have had some pretty crappy luck when it comes to getting back into the Stanley Cup Finals and winning it. It just never seemed to be able to get the right opponent. Always seem to find our way into facing off with dynasties every single time since '75. So let's see here. Lenny Robinson saying, Urson is good. I just feel like he's a guy who is the best backup goalie in the league and will keep us afloat. If your number one goes down with injury, I don't see him tending us to a cup, but I've been wrong before, no doubt. I mean, I will say that if the Flyers can get to a Stanley Cup Finals with the aid of both Brian Boucher and Michael Leighton, it's very possible Urson could have an amazing run in the playoffs. Just saying, anything's possible if that's the case. So,
yeah, and I mean, I agree with Lenny. I don't think Urson's a franchise guy. He's not a guy who's going to start 50 to 60 games for you and be consistent throughout that entire season. He's a very good tandem backup goalie. Yeah, he's showing that he can be a starter and maybe start a few games in a row. Absolutely. I just don't think he's going to be the guy who's going to wind up being a star in this league. He's not going to be a Marc-Andre Fleury. He's not going to be an Igor Shesterkin. He's not going to be Ilya Sorokin. But he's going to be a guy that you can rely on when it comes to playoff time or when it comes to crunch time that you need somebody to lean on. He's going to prove to be that guy. And I think that's maybe not what a lot of people are looking to hear, but that's still something that's really good for him moving forward it's something that he's going to make a lot of money doing is being a solid tandem guy who's going to be able to start 42 to 50 games a year right behind somebody else.
I mean, I will say this too. You know who he reminds me of a little bit? And this may not exactly be agreed upon universally, but he reminds me a little bit of Mason. Mason was a guy that I felt actually was reliable during his stint with the Flyers. Was he perfect? No, he wasn't perfect. But I always felt like Mason seemed to have himself under control when the Flyers were playing with him. And that was a time period when the Flyers defense was starting to go down and it was starting to show its cracks. So he had to kind of be a big player for the Flyers on multiple occasions there. And, you know, I understand if some people may disagree with that only because of who we sent to Columbus in exchange for him. And I get that side of it because the other half of it went on to win Vezinas with Columbus. But still, I think if I could compare Urson to somebody, I think Mason would be the closest example I could bring up right now in recent history with the Flyers.
Right.
Yeah.
And he can prove himself to be a very good tandem goaltender, a guy that can really back up your starter when called upon. And he's showing quality stats like we talked about previously. It raises his trade value if you believe that the franchise goaltender is playing in a backup role right now on the team, or maybe hasn't even sniffed the NHL when you're talking about their deep pipeline like Carson Bjornsson. I think either way, you enjoy the ride, and what's good is that there's a lot of youth in between the pipes, Brian.
No, absolutely, and that's extremely beneficial. I mean, Urson himself is only 24 or 25, so you know he's starting to cement that where his ceiling is gonna be. You know, Flyers gave up on Anthony Stolarz a little too soon, in my opinion, and you're starting to see why.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Anaheim, proved to be a valuable backup. Went to, where else did he go? He went to Florida, wound up winning a cup, being a valuable backup. He is showing in Toronto that he can take the reins and hold a tandem role and be one of the best backups in the league. You see, this is where it's at. When you have a tandem goalie pipeline like the Flyers have right now, where you can rely on guys like Erson and Fedotov, and allow guys like Kolosov to kind of get his bearings in the AHL and kind of work and develop on some things, and then still realize we got two other guys waiting to go here. I think that's extremely valuable for this team. I think it's going to be a big step for this team moving forward, especially with where the Flyers are right now as far as this playoff race goes, especially when you got two massive Metro Division games coming up against said Devils and Islanders that we were talking about earlier.
Right. So, I mean, before we continue on, Bri, I do believe that you have – oh, I'm sorry. Pove, my bad. Pove, I do believe you had Brink's power play goal to show everybody.
Yeah, you brought up Bobby before in his excellent play, Maddie. So I look no further than what he did against the Devils last game, and hopefully can continue for the next game forward.
Absolutely. And, I do like Bobby. I like his intensity. I think he's definitely got that in his game. So, I mean, if he can be consistent, there's no reason he can't be here.
Yeah, here we go.
Let's see here. As nice
The
pass.
Awesome one-timer. I mean, like, I got a little lucky hit off the defender's pants there, but that's a rocket of a shot from out deep on the power play.
No, absolutely. And he's a guy that this team needs to rely on moving forward, is getting him to the next level and playing that game that he played in juniors to get him drafted and be one of the best scorers coming out of the draft. You know, there was a lot of hype behind this kid, and we see flashes of it. We just need to see more consistency from it. And not every goal is going to be pretty. Not every goal has to be pretty, but they all count the same at the end of the day. You just got to make sure you put it in the puck. You put the puck in the net more than the guy you're facing.
True story.
And yeah, that was a nice goal, and I did like the nice setup there from Risto. And I got to give Risto
yeah.
his credit. Risto's been playing a lot better recently. So you know what? Good on you, Risto.
He's having a fantastic year.
Yeah, gave him a lot of shit these last few seasons, but you know what? He's having a good year this year. So good on you, bud. Good on you. So let's see here. What else we got here from the fam?
How you go, bud? How you go? How you go?
Lenny saying, I am a Carson Bjarnason stan. I think he's a future stud, #1, Carter Hart status, minus the allegations. Yeah, definitely minus that. Let's see.
I saw LL drop the question if Fedotov wound up going, or not Fedotov, Kolosov wound up reporting the AHL. He did.
Yes.
He
Yes,
did. And then he got smacked in his first start.
He did, and Mike Knuble actually called him out a little bit on that.
But I think a lot of progress was made with that. The relations much better, overcoming the language gap much better in terms of communicating on the ice and with the Flyers organization philosophy and what support you're going to get here by playing within the system. And this and they showed him opportunity. They showed him opportunity from day one to compete and stay on this level and show that if you play well, the cream will rise to the top. So I think that issue may be finally put to bed. Hopefully, boys.
Hopefully, and hopefully we see some good flashes from Kolosov down there and over in the AHL and the Phantoms. And let's see here. What else we got? Swoopy saying Flyers need a goalie who is the franchise goaltender who will be starting at least 2 years prior before the Flyers are ready to compete for the Stanley Cup. Maybe, but I mean, hey, maybe not. I mean, Bennington was a rookie and he took St. Louis all the way to the Stanley Cup and won. So, I mean, it's possible. Although I don't know if would you say Bennington was a franchise goalie, or would you say that he was a good goalie that just happened to take a hot team to the Stanley Cup Finals?
Matt Murray did it.
Matt Murray did too. Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call Murray a franchiser, but he definitely shared the benefit of a really good team that was in front of him.
Then he can throw the water bottles like nobody's business, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
He was a great goaltender on a hot team, though.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look at who's Washington when they won. Look at Vegas when they won. Aiden Hill he's an AHL starter, and he just got hot at the right time in front of a great team and wound up winning the Stanley Cup. Sometimes it's not always about how good your goaltender is. Sometimes it's about how good your defense in front of him is.
True. And Lenny does propose this. Def like Risto, but we got to trade him at top dollar this year, recoup some picks or prospects.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, hey, if he's having a really good year and you can sell high on him, not necessarily a bad thing at the end of the day. Oh, here's a blast from the past that Lenny just threw out there. He threw out Jim Carrey. No, not the one you're thinking of. One who wore a Washington Capitals jersey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about Jim Carrey.
I think he retired like 2 years into his career.
Yeah.
So,
there was one comment I saw. Sorry. Like I said, my brain's all over the place. I can't think straight. Everything's kind of blurry to me right now. Give me a second to find it.
Don't operate heavy machinery, whatever you do.
I'm so tired. Like, I did not sleep well last night, and on top of it, like, working all day, not being able to take a nap, I'm just...
Well, Swoopy's comment here won't help you. He's saying, then why are you saying the Hurricanes need a great goalie, Bri?
Because they don't have a goalie. Frederick Anderson has already proven who he is. And I never said they needed a great goalie. I said they need a better goalie.
Yeah.
They need better than Freddie Anderson.
Anderson needs a therapist.
Freddie Anderson needs to realize that he's just a backup. And that's, I mean, look at when they had Cam Ward. That team was consistently good. That team won a Stanley Cup with him. I mean, let's be real. Like, I'm a big believer in the Hurricanes being a contender, especially after getting Mikko Rantanen. Like that was a massive trade, but they need to upgrade the goaltending because that defense, as much as I like that defense, they need a goaltender. They do. Peter Kochetkov, solid, but it can't be just him. They need a goalie. They need a goalie. Toronto needs a goalie. Detroit needs a goalie.
Okay, so then question, do you think that so for Anaheim in specific with Gibson, do you think that they send him to Carolina?
I think he definitely gets traded. Where he goes to, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, depending on where Pittsburgh gets, Pittsburgh could be an option. Flyers could be an option depending on where they are. Hurricanes, Toronto, Detroit. Like, I've heard all these teams thrown out there that Gibson can wind up going to. It's just a matter of where they are in the playoff race and who's willing to give up what.
So the response from Swoopy.
But here's the difference, though, Swoopy. Those defenses are 3 deep. They have the depth to be able to support a bad goaltender. Carolina doesn't have that. Brent Burns is good. Jacob Slavin is good. Chapman, he's solid. After that, I can't even think of who else they have. They lost Brett Pesce, which was huge. They lost Brady Shea, which was another big loss. They don't have the defensive depth that some of these other teams do to be able to carry a goaltender into the playoffs. They just don't. They don't. They traded for one of the biggest superstars available for the trade deadline, and they're going to try and outscore teams at this point. They just don't. They don't have the defense to support that, to do what Vegas has done. They just don't. They don't have that depth. They have 3 solid players, and that's pretty much it. Although I will say, I'm a big Jacob Slavin fan, so I'm just going to put that out there.
Most underrated player in NHL.
Thank you. Somebody else gets it. This is why we keep you around, Pope.
You know Pope has seniority, right?
By like what? A month?
More like a year.
All right, fair enough.
First time me and this man over here got together, 4-hour podcast of hockey. I don't know how we survived that. How did we survive that?
I don't know, man. I still don't know to this day. Talking 4 hours of hockey. Then again, I could talk myself into a circle when it comes to things like this. So maybe I'm not that surprised.
I just came across the flash drive the other day. It was pretty interesting. I didn't dare give it a listen though.
Amateur hour.
Yeah,
no,
listen,
it was, brother. It was.
Listen, I did a podcast. It wasn't even a real podcast. It didn't even go anywhere. But I did a podcast shortly after we graduated from CSB. I think we were like I was 2 classes after you guys.
I think so.
And we wound up doing me and this one guy in my class. We wound up doing this thing called Nonsense Radio, where we recorded like 4 things. It was the absolute dumbest shit we've ever done. But shout out to my boy Huss, and he's probably not listening, but you know, I miss my CSB boys. They were the best.
It was a good experience. And we had the grapevine, like the family tree. Like Maddie graduated in the semester before me, and then it goes right down the line this way.
Absolutely. Oh man, and who would have thought? Just one little thing, and it starts this whole chain reaction.
Yes.
So, that's called science, folks. Even though I'm a history guy, I do believe it does exist out there. So no one can come with the pitchforks.
It really was nonsense, though. Like, it was so funny.
So let's see here. Moving on. For that, So what's on tap for Philly, for the Flyers? What's up, Chucks? How you doing, brother?
Where you at,
Sorry, man.
Chucks?
Better late than never, buddy.
Hey, listen, it's okay if you're late, man. It's going to be a busy couple of weeks for you boys. Totally
Hey.
understand.
He's sitting here texting me the whole time. He was in the room with me while I was setting up. Sorry for the late text. What? Yeah, like you like married with a kid or something, Chucks. Like you gotta put the kid to bed or something.
Oh, man. So, yeah, what's on tap for Philly? Well, for the Flyers, it is big battles here coming up. Besides the Metro battles, I said before, they have Colorado, they have Utah coming back into town to close out their season series with the Flyers. So there's a couple of big games here for the Flyers here before they get close to winding down the season. And let me just double check here to find out when the Four Nations Cup officially gets going. So that way we know.
February 12th or 21st?
You are correct.
12th
February 12th. It is the day. So that will be when we officially are on break for the season. We will still be here, but the Flyers won't be for the time being, at least the ones that aren't on those specific national teams.
We should do a bracket show. Let's do a bracket show.
Yeah, you might as well for the Four Nations face-off. Why the hell not?
Yeah,
Absolutely. Not? I mean, should we cheat and just pick Canada? So, to be fair, though, I don't think that they're nearly as much of a favorite this year, though, because of their goalie situation. A lot of people.
No, don't even do that. Don't forget about the nations. I mean, although you could incorporate it, maybe you could say like identify international teams. USA, Canada over the years. But I'm thinking something along the lines of, a bracket of hockey fighters who wins these battles to move on. You know what I mean? Just by our consensus and the fans' consensus, something like that. That could be fun to do during the time off, during the break.
Are they freezing the rosters at that point?
I would think so. Don't they normally do that in the All-Star break?
I don't remember. I feel like they did. I feel like there's going to be a roster freeze, but I'm not 100% certain. Because they did it during the Christmas break. I don't know if they would do it.
I would think they would.
The All-Star break.
I mean, I would think they would. I'd be shocked if they didn't, honestly. Only because, why make trades at this point when nothing's really going on? But anyway, so yeah, that's what's coming up for the Flyers. But there's big thing that's on tap for Philly, and that is prep for the Eagles and the Chiefs. And so that's the big thing that's currently going on in Philadelphia.
I don't want to wait 2 weeks for that.
What? You can watch the very exciting and thrilling Pro Bowl that will absolutely not put you to sleep.
I don't want to wait 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. I don't. No, for real though. I think making I get why they do it. I don't like it though. I want to go back to the old way of having the Super Bowl almost immediately after the conference championship. Again, I understand why they do it. They want to make it more fun for the players and make it more of an event than anything. And yes, Rob, 100%. It's all about the cash grab. But I don't want to wait 2 weeks. Let's go. Let's go now. I'm ready.
So, well, think about it. Just the anticipation can build. The anxiety can grow to a fever pitch to the point where you're about ready to become hysterical and running it down the street, screaming at the top of your lungs.
It does give Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert more time to heal up from those bumps and bruises along the way. Especially maybe even that offensive line. They're hiding injuries right now, so gives them all a little bit more time to set up the block for Saquon. But I mean, you got to think that Philadelphia is the more complete team right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at statistically, this is probably one of the worst years that Pat Mahomes is having.
Right.
I mean, they said that the AFC Championship was the only game this year where they wound up putting up over 30 points. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yeah.
So this offense that the Chiefs have, they haven't been rolling like they usually do. Great young player in Xavier Worthy, but I think if the Eagles want a chance to absolutely win this game, and I think they can, one, you got to rely on Saquon. You got to make sure that he's doing what he does. Running the ball, finding the holes, being patient, wearing down the defense in the first half. Jalen's making sure that he's getting to the line, recognizing defenses, making the changes that he needs to. And three, figure out ways to not get any of these controversial penalty calls that are coming up out of nowhere, or any of these bad plays where, like Xavier Worthy, that should not have been a catch. If you watch the replay, ball hit the ground. No doubt in my mind. There's too many convenient calls going in favor of Kansas City. Eagles got to keep themselves out of those situations in my opinion, to beat the Chiefs. But I think they are the more complete team, and I think they're going to be the team that, if the color theory is correct, they'll be the team to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the one X factor, and they started looking good and in rhythm for the first time all year because he was hurt for the first half of the year. But the X factor, I think, for the Chiefs is Hollywood Brown. He gets loose in the secondary, and you guys have a pretty tight secondary, so that's why I'm confident in the Eagles' ability to win the Super Bowl. But he gets loose, he can finally deliver for a quarterback, which, Kyler Murray could be like, what the fuck? Where was that? But but Pat Mahomes is a different breed. So, and it seems like this league wants to do everything to support the Kelsey Swift merger, because that's what's best for business. So I wouldn't be surprised if they win another fucking one, man. And then all of a sudden they take over the mantle as most villainous team from the New England Patriots.
I think they're already there, in my opinion. Like I think I would rather see New England.
Speaking of the Kelsey Swift merger, is she doing the halftime shows from this point forward forever?
She'll probably be out there with Kendrick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. They did Bad Blood together, right? So maybe she comes out for that. Oh boy. Oh
God, we're making the Super Bowl much worse. What are we doing here?
I just thought it was funny when last year when they were constantly highlighting Taylor Swift, I just kept torturing everybody. Be like, oh, hey, they brought Taylor Swift back up on the screen, and just see everybody lose their minds the entire time. It's like, this is why I love watching hockey. You don't have to worry about Taylor Swift giving a shit about hockey. So
yeah. I just want to know who she's rooting for. Is she going to be rooting for the Eagles, or is she going to be rooting for the Chiefs?
She'll probably be rooting for the Chiefs.
She's an Eagles fan, apparently.
Well, supposedly, but she's also with Jason Kelsey, so I think she's going to go on that. Travis, not Jason. Jason was on our team, wasn't he? Yeah.
But Benny, I feel your concern on the linebackers, but as far as this defense goes right now, I have little to no concerns. I mean, I know they're going to get the pressure on Mahomes when they need to. I have no worries about the secondary. Especially with Slade leading the way with Quinyon and Coop. But my more concern is going to be can we shut down Kelsey? If we can take Kelsey out of the game, I think the Eagles have a very good chance.
And Prism said he wants to see a 5-4 score in the Super Bowl. Is that even possible?
Is that the box you got in your Super Bowl pool? 5-4 is decent. I'm just saying, 5-4 is decent. 35-24.
Yeah. Let's see here. John's saying the Royal Rumble Saturday night. It is. It's going to be fun. It's so weird, though, to see it happen in February. I still don't know how to feel about it. Just like, it's February. Why the fuck is the Royal Rumble in February? It's always been in January. I don't know why. My geeky, nerdy mind cannot take this. It really can't. I'm kind of losing it over it.
Why is it later this year? Is there a reason for that?
I think to close the gap between that and WrestleMania.
Oh, this is a permanent thing now.
I think it is. I think they're
Okay.
experimenting with it this year, and if it's successful, which most likely it will be, they'll probably just keep it that way.
Plus, it gives some time for more viewership to roll in on Netflix.
Absolutely.
They, start the Netflix era. So
plus, and they're doing Saturday night main event. I think every other month or something like that now. So that's going to be a more common thing. So it's going to push the pay-per-views back a little bit.
I think they're starting to also, because since Triple H took over, I think they're starting to kind of go a little old school where they're kind of pulling back a lot of those secondary pay-per-views. They're still there, but they're not as prevalent as they were in the previous era.
But boys, it's really smart though. Talk about the week off, to have it in the week off. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it makes total sense. You have the Royal Rumble Saturday night. You have the Snooze Fest Pro Bowl on Sunday. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you couldn't have asked for a better week for the Royal Rumble to take place, honestly.
Nope.
You might occasionally run into, if they keep it like this, they might run into the NHL or NBA All-Star game, probably more likely the NHL than in subsequent years and the NBA, because NBA season starts a little bit later. So hit that subscribe.
I think a lot of that, like, I think they have more of a chance of having the NFL kind of drown them out than like an NBA or an NHL All-Star game, or even just a game in general. Obviously, that's the NFL's Super Bowl, NFL playoffs. That's all going to take away from viewership, which I think is a big reason why they went from Sundays to Saturdays.
Yes. With
their PLEs. So now they just completely take the NFL out of it. But being Super Bowl week, which the next Saturday is the Saturday before the Super Bowl, yeah?
Yeah, it's the week. The Royal Rumble is this weekend, and then the following weekend is the Super Bowl.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Yeah, so they just kind of sandwiched it perfectly, and plus also there's no NFL playoff games at all, because the Pro Bowl obviously isn't one of them. So that it's perfect. It's a perfect weekend for the WWE to put that on. But before we close this out, Priz did throw out this comment, and this is interesting because it does relate to the All-Star games and such. 4 Nations instead of the All-Star game as a permanent replacement. And honestly, I'm kind of not against it. And the only reason why is because I feel like national pride is kind of a thing that still very much exists in the hockey world, where you do take a sense of pride. I mean, obviously, Canada will always take pride in hockey. And it always, if you're on this side of the border, if you're in the U.S., it feels pretty good to actually get one over on Canada in hockey every now and again. When it happens, it feels pretty damn good to be like, we got them this time. It feels good to me. I will say that.
It does. The only thing is, while it'll cover a majority of the players, it doesn't cover everybody's, nationality. So it'll be hard to honor, each standout player in the NHL via the 4 Nations. But maybe you have a conjunction where you just have All-Star Weekend center around the skills competition, and the tournament is the 4 Nations instead. Again, much like Roger Goodell, I don't see Gary Bettman walking away from a potentially money gardening All-Star game, though.
No, and I agree. But if this does wind up earning a nice fetch of cash, he might consider it possibly.
Sure.
It's just
money's so evil. It's caused so much division in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who knows? I've heard the rumor go around that Bettman is nearing retirement. So we'll see if that's the case. I don't
put somebody worse in there.
I've been saying this for the last few years. I don't understand why everybody's hating on Bettman. I think Bettman's done a lot of good for the growing of this game. Maybe some stupid contract things, but like as far as like just growing the game and making it better, some of the rule changes I'm not in agreement with, but all in all, I still think at the end of the day, I think Bettman's done a great job.
SJM, I don't think I can, brother. I don't think anyone can blackball you. Good comment, though. I love it.
It's so great when Hogan got booed, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a
Oof.
guy who's deserved it for a very long time.
Oof.
But anyway, so
This McMahon documentary is it's very eye-opening.
Yeah, no kidding. That was really good.
yeah, I just love the fact that he stopped at the interviews after all the allegations came out.
Mhm.
But anyway,
And he's been vindicated, right? Apparently.
yeah,
Apparently.
but I don't necessarily think because of a jury of his peers. I think because a certain someone took over in the White House that's a good buddy of his. So I think that might have had something to do with it, possibly.
Or not enough.
Either way, he's out there. There's some talk he might start his own thing to compete against his former company, WWE.
Boy,
He's
that'd
lost
be
it.
weird.
I don't think
Or
he's-
what? You know what would break the internet?
What?
If Vince McMahon showed up on AEW and was all elite
Oh
with
wow.
Tony Khan, that would break the internet. And he'd be like, "Fuck you, WWE."
Well,
Oh,
I
my
think I
Lord.
mean I think Vince McMahon has lost it. I don't think he's the same.
Yeah,
I don't think he's the same booker as he once was.
yeah.
And that happens over time. Like you're not going to always be great at something. Like you're eventually going to have a little bit of a descent. But I mean, if Vince McMahon ever went to AEW, I think AEW would absolutely turn itself around.
Yeah, for sure. But in all seriousness, now, I mean, you saw Vince Senior walk away gracefully, right? You know, you'd think that okay, it's now in the hands of his son-in-law and really his daughter. You know what I mean? So passing the torch, go enjoy the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Come on, I mean, you could say that maybe he deserves this, and I think I would be one that would agree with you. You know what I mean? In terms of the mistreatment and sexual harassment that he has done in this world. But
Heather, you need to behave yourself in that chat. I see what you're doing.
Oh, come on. Let her live her life. Stop being so... You're getting all, get wound up too tight there, Bri. Come on, loosen up a little bit, brother.
Hey, listen, that's fine. Jesus. A lot of innuendo going on in our chat right now, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Listen, I'm digging it. This is hilarious. This is some of the best stuff that you guys have put out so far. I would say who's the comment of the night, but I don't think I can pick one.
Damn, 10 years and tonight is the best comments of the damn.
I mean,
it all goes down the chat after 10.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It really does, though.
I mean, we brought up Taylor Swift for 2 seconds, and then we brought up Kelsey, and then we talked about skin flutes and things like that over here in the chat. How can I not say that this is the best that they've been so far? So,
SJM, I have no idea what is happening right now. I'm trying to go back and see where it all went wrong.
oh, just don't worry, you'll see it. You'll see it. I think Benny was the one who made the comment too. So, anyway.
Whoa, I found it. Wow.
I told you.
Whoa, Benny. Or not Benny. Sorry, SJM.
Oh, it was SJM. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Still.
SJM. Yep. Whoa. Hey now.
All right. So with that being said, I think we
don't do
done.
HUD after dark anymore.
We thank everybody for joining us here on another edition of Flyers Talk A2D, and we hope that everyone out there is having themselves a wonderful week so far, and they'll continue to have a good week and have a great weekend. And hopefully filled with excitement. If you're watching the Royal Rumble on Saturday, enjoy very much. If you are watching the Pro Bowl, sweet dreams. And if you are excited for the Eagles and Chiefs, get excited, stay excited. Oh, God. SJM, I don't know about that, brother. I don't think we shouldn't be subjecting the people to that. No.
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 A2D After Dark returns. I love it. Oh my
For
God!
one night only.
Oh man!
All right.
Man. I listen. 2 of those 3 girls were amazing. The other one was a fucking train wreck. Oh, she was an absolute train wreck. Oh God, this has been awful. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Off the rails, as always.
We thank everybody for joining us for this edition of Flyers Talk A2D, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. And we will see you guys next week right here on A2DRadio.com. Like I said, if you're going to watch the Rumble, have fun and enjoy. And hopefully we will have a game here next week. Yes, we do. It is the Utah game. So we will have a game next week that we will either be doing a preview or a live reaction to.
Real quick predictions for the back end of the home and home with the Devils.
3-1 Flyers.
4-2 Flyers.
Oh, we're going to have a repeat. Nice.
3-2 Devils in the shootout.
Oh. Hey, who told him to leave? Somebody get him back here. You're not allowed to go anywhere. Stay put. How'd you do that?
I did it.
Oh.
He said the Devils won, and that was it. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, fair enough.
Anyway.
All right, fair enough.
All right, guys. Everyone stay safe. Stay healthy out there. Love you, fam. We'll see you guys next week. And, yeah, we'll see what insanity comes out of you guys and what insanity comes out of us. There'll be plenty of that, I'm sure. We'll see you guys next week right here on A2DRadio.com. Peace and love, everyone.
Be good. Go Flyers.